So we've just had the weigh-in for Anthony Joshua versus Jermaine Franklin, and it's a little bit concerning if you're picking Anthony Joshua, I'll say that. Anthony Joshua has weighed in at 255.4 pounds. Jermaine Franklin has weighed in at 234.1. Joshua, as I'm sure you can tell, has weighed in at the heaviest of his entire professional career. Why on earth would he do this? This I'm asking you guys the question. Do you think Joshua shot himself in the foot here? Because I don't know, it looks like he may have. We know that Joshua hasn't got the best stamina. He's shown decent stamina when he's been in the 230s, 240s, and it's not great, but it's just better. It's decent. But at 255, the last time he weighed close to this was against Carlos Takam, where he weighed 254 pounds, I believe. And that was not vintage AJ. He looked sluggish. He looked plodding. He took a long rest before he could get his second wind. And that fight went long as well. They went 10 rounds, and he managed to get the stoppage in the end, even though that was a terrible stoppage of Carlos Takam. So it's really no secret that Joshua at 250, he doesn't really have much business being there if he hopes to win. Jermaine Franklin, on the other hand, at 234.1, he's no stranger to this weight. If you go through his record, you can see that years ago he'd weigh in the 220s, 230s, so he's been around this kind of weight before. The last time he was in the 230s was against Pavel Sauer, and he looked quick in that fight. He was, had some decent foot speed, decent hand speed, and yes, Pavel Sauer's not even in the same stratosphere as Anthony Joshua in terms of quality. However, it looks as if Jermaine Franklin really has given himself the best chance of winning this fight. He's spoken about how he's had more time to prepare for this one, and it shows. Numerically, he's 23 pounds lighter than he was against Dillian Whyte, and against Dillian Whyte, he looked good. He looked quick, he looked sharp. Stamina was decent, maybe faded a little bit in spots, but I think where it counted most, his stamina held up. And now he's lighter than that. So Jermaine Franklin looks like he's left no stone unturned in preparation for this one. And yeah, I think he's really given himself the best chance of winning it. Will he though? The proof's in the pudding. We have to see how it plays out on the night. But yeah, not a good look for Joshua, coming in at career heaviest. And I wonder what the rationale behind that is, if anything. Because, him teaming up with Derek James, there were all these reports of how he's gone back to old school training methods, and I guess you can read in between the lines, okay, he's probably going to come in a bit lighter because he's focusing on more rigorous conditioning, laying off the strength training, laying off the weights, really honing his boxing craft, probably coming in a bit more of a natural weight. But no, comes in at a career heaviest. I just find it strange, and a little bit alarming, a bit concerning. I've got to give a shout out to Pudding Jim as well, because he's actually picking Jermaine Franklin to win. He thinks Franklin's going to get a late stoppage in rounds between round 9 and 10, and he spoke about how Franklin's got ability, he's got toughness, he's got stamina, and Joshua doesn't have the greatest stamina, and takes a few rounds off until he gets his second wind. And I actually replied to Pudding Jim saying, you know what, a Franklin win wouldn't shock me. It surprised me, but it wouldn't shock me. It wouldn't be like the worst or most surprising upset I've ever seen. It'd be like, oh, well, okay, Franklin actually did it, but it wouldn't turn my world upside down, I'll say that. And obviously you factor in the context of this is Joshua's comeback. There are a lot of question marks around him, and now he's coming at career heaviest. And I mentioned to Pudding Jim as well about how Joshua does look overly bulky, and this was before the weigh-in. I was looking at press conferences and face-offs, and just looking at Joshua, he looked big. Like, he didn't look fleshy or anything. Joshua never does, but just pumped up, overly bulky, a bit too much muscle on the bones. And yeah, it looks as if that has been the case because he's weighed in at career heaviest. And weigh-ins, they can still be cheated. Fighters can come in with things in their pockets to make them seem as if they're heavier than they actually are. But I think this is legit. I think Anthony Joshua actually has come in at career heaviest. Then, bit concerning. Is an upset brewing? I don't think this is enough to make me deviate from my prediction. I still think Joshua wins this fight by a stoppage. However, I am maybe anticipating him having a rougher night. Maybe not looking $1 million. But I'm going to stick with Joshua, I'll say that. But hey, if you're planning to put money on the underdog, maybe it's the time to do it. What do you guys think? Is this getting you to deviate from your prediction if you're picking Joshua? Do you think that this is, not so a bit concerning, not a great look? Leave it down below in the comments. I'll get back to you people. But for now, thanks for listening. I'll catch you in the next one.